And I don't want to be the dad that dies at 40 of a heart attack. So thanks to you, I'm going to start prioritizing my health. I may not ever be a business owner who uses your services, but I can be a dad that you'd be proud to know. If you'll use what you have in your hands, the things that you take for granted, it's enough. It's always been enough. It'll always be enough. And when you can recognize that, then you can start to stack and compound that.
Cody Jefferson, welcome to the WillPower podcast. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing well, man. It's good to be here.
Dude, I'm so glad that we finally get into this. So, and I feel like podcasts / social media, everybody always just posts their highlight reels out there, right?
Yeah.
So for everybody, nobody knows this, but you were supposed to be here like 2 months ago.
Right.
And you're the only, we're at like episode, like we're getting to the 90s now. You're the only guest that I've ever had to call because our tech guy just no-showed on me. Yeah. And it was so embarrassing because I had never met you prior to that.
Sure.
So I'm over here like, dude, I don't, do you want to go to lunch? And then, but dude, we went to Chipotle, which again, it's not just like a dude's lunch.
Sure.
And dude, I got to know you, and I everything happens for a reason. I truly believe that, and I'm so happy that that happened now. You know, in retrospect, looking at it. But I'm so excited to have you on. For people that haven't heard your name before, which there should be a lot of people out there that have. I mean, you're a social media influencer. You're a coach. You're an entrepreneur. I love on the questionnaire that I send out. I'm like, tell me a little bit about your business, and you're just like, which one are we talking about?
Right,
dude. What I really wanted I want to kind of dive into your story a little bit more, even though you've shared it so many different times. But what I really want to actually just have a one-on-one, like we're back at Chipotle, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And it's funny. One of the things that stuck out to me was that you told me that you bring your son to deals.
Yeah.
That like when you're buying businesses, you're selling businesses, you're like, I want my son. And we talked a lot about that. Yeah. But as you know, me and my wife just had our first kid last year. He's 13 months old, but whenever you and I met, the 2 months or whatever that have happened, he's more of a human now.
Oh, yeah. It goes quick.
And then so, dude, yesterday was my wife went out to dinner with some girls, and then so I stayed with him, and I posted a couple pictures, and I had already posted a picture or a video of sharing me brushing his teeth, and I get all these comments from people on my stories saying like, it's so good to see that you're a present dad because it seems like you have a lot going on, kind of like the gist of it, of all the messages. And I mean, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, because if there's anybody that's busy, it's you. But dude, your kid's here right now.
Yeah, he's right over there.
So before we get started, though, I know I might have missed some stuff, but people that haven't heard your name, what else would you want them to know about you?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I'm Stetson's dad.
And that's your biggest accomplishment right there.
That's it. I'm Stetson's dad. I'm Sarah's husband. Everything else is tinsel. So I've got a few things that I do. I'm in the coaching consulting space. So we've got a company called Embrace the Lion. We lead about 4,000 men in the conversation of becoming better men, better fathers, better husbands, better business owners. We've got an agency called Sell the Story. So we work with celebrities and influencers in higher level campaigns. We also work in the investment space, basically securing accredited investors with A-round fundraising. We've got an apparel company called Spiritual World Tour. We've got a couple other things that I'm invested in, but for a day-to-day perspective, walking with consulting companies, some of them on the cap table 4, and the conversation of helping good men become great, those are the two primary drivers of what occupy my time day to day.
And this is exactly why I want to talk about, how do you prioritize what's truly important? So I know I want to talk about how do you stay a good dad with all that you have going on. But really, I remember talking with you when we had lunch, and you were kind of telling me your routine. Like, you're like, go to the gym, come back, have breakfast, like all this stuff. And all that to me told me out of all the stuff that you have going on, to me, anybody can do that. Anybody can also, buy a nice car, buy a nice clothes, buy a nice watch, but you can't buy being a good family man. You can't buy being a good dad. So how do you keep yourself, I guess, humble enough to be able to put that first and not get carried away with all the stuff that you have going on?
So I think it's a conversation of priority. So for me, it's not how do I manage all the things that I'm called to and be a good family man or be a present father and a present husband. It is, I am a present husband and a present father first. And so then how do I navigate the other things that I'm called to without sacrificing those things on the altar of some self-perceived success? So for me, it is, one, how do I fill my cup up first? Because I was in occupational ministry for 13 years. And that process taught me a lot of what it looks like to give everything to everyone all the time. Because there's a really interesting discrepancy when your job is God and God is your job and you don't really know where everything falls on the hierarchy because God's first, but that's also my job. So it should be first, but no, family should be first. But no, so there was a lot of imbalance there. And so on the backside of that and coming into the conversation of entrepreneurship and business, it was always, okay, well, I need to make sure that my cup is full first. I need to take care of myself physically. I need to take care of myself emotionally. I need to take care of myself spiritually. Then family. Then everything else. So how do I create, financial security and independence? How do I fulfill the calling on my life to walk with people and serve them at a high capacity while being a family man first?
So you said just keep it in a priority, which I think that most people that you talk to would say that they keep their family a priority. And
Sure.
I put quotation marks on that because not very many people that say that are doing that. So would you say that because if I talk to Cody when he was a pastor and I say, what's the most important thing to you? I'm sure you would have said your family.
Sure.
But that's a different Cody than what we're seeing today.
Yeah.
So would you say that it was just filling up your cup with, like you said, your health, your emotional health as well, and then also your faith? Is that pretty much the big difference?
Yeah, and I'm going to take these off simply because it's throwing me off here in my self-talk.
No, you go for it. Go for it. So I told
so much better.
I told you that I normally haven't been telling people they don't have to wear them but if I take mine off, I feel like you've had lunch with me. I'm just like, we're talking about 100
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So you feel it keeps you focused. For me, I'm so conversational. I'm like, let me get these cans off so we can just have a conversation. And I don't feel like I'm on. I don't feel like I'm having to present something. So it's the difference between saying like, I'm going to build this company because I want to provide for my family. And as men, we are called to provide. We're called to protect. We're called to pioneer. And so where we can get it kind of messed up is we will say, I'm doing all of this for you. And so we'll sacrifice family time. We'll sacrifice presence because we're in build mode. And we'll say, yeah, but I'm doing it all for you, right? We're neglecting date nights. We're neglecting time with our wives. We're neglecting games and practices and ways to be present with our kids. And we're saying, okay, yeah, but I'm doing it for you. Well, nobody asked you to do that. You're doing it for yourself. Like, let's be honest. You are doing it for yourself. Short, maybe to provide financially, but the greatest gift that you're going to give your family is healthy, whole, present you. At the end of this life, everything's going to burn. Everything I'm building is going to burn. It's going to go back to the ground. Every cool timepiece I have, whatever car I'm driving, all the fancy suits, all that's it's going to go to the ground, right?
100%. I mean, even
so legacy can't be, it can't be the dollar sign that we have behind what we do. The legacy is who's standing over our casket and what they're going to say about us. And so for me, prioritizing those people, prioritizing the people in my life that are the most important, and really trying to show at the end of the day, my son, what it looks like to be a man who is called in his life, but not at the detriment of the sacrifice of the people that matter the most.
So good. You shared your story deep because one of the things that really drew me to you was it's easy to see somebody that's out there doing it all. Like I introduced you, you told us a little bit more of everything else that you do, and it's easy for so many people to say, well, good for him, because I can't do that because I'm going through a hard time right now. I'm going through all of this. Dude, you can share whatever you want, but you shared a lot of stuff with me that I'm like, this is somebody that was in a way worse spot than I've ever heard anybody be in. And where you're at now is it's a completely, like, you're a completely different person.
Yeah.
But my question is, how do you turn that mentality without having to go through that hardship? Because I think that that's really what changed you. But I'm a big believer that you don't have to be back against the wall and then just have your life just crash in front of you in order to be able to just be like, I need to change something. So how do you do that?
Well, I think for some people, there's just a lack of awareness. You know, it's not that things are great or anything. It's just things are familiar. And so when things are familiar, you get into this kind of endless cycle of confirming yourself correct. And you don't recognize you're going deeper and deeper into a pit. You just feel yourself more isolated. And so you pull back even more because there's some shame around that. There's some guilt around that. Well, that isolation can sometimes lead to self-medication. It can lead to depression. It can lead to heightened anxiety. It can lead to trying to put on a front. It's certainly not for everyone. But I find that, at least for the people that I'm connected to, there is some sort of collision that has to happen in your life where the cost of staying where you're at, right, is so much, like, there's so much more pain there than what it would look like to turn around. I think that most people would say that they want more than what they currently have. And I don't necessarily even mean financially.
Yeah.
I just mean deeper connection with their spouse, deeper connection with kids, maybe healthier body, a deeper connection with God. Because I'm 40 and, you know, singing songs on Sunday on the backside of all of the trauma in life and experience and stress that we've walked through, like, it's not the same as when you're 16 singing at summer camp.
Yeah.
There's a lot of life that's happened. And so how do we reconcile and create a deeper sense of faith? And how do we build something more? And so what I have found is, one, applause for anyone who's trying to do anything different in their life. You know, a lot of people are coming up against generational curses that they didn't even know they were responsible to break. And they've never seen it done before. And so it's easy to say, yeah, for somebody like you, thinking that maybe I come from something or somewhere different. And I come from rural Oklahoma. For a great deal of my life, it was in a single bedroom trailer. I got into occupational ministry at 19, which, by the way, no 19-year-old kid should be on a mega church stage.
Yeah.
I was so in over my skis, but I'm so grateful for the opportunity. And 13 beautiful years of ministry. It was the best of times and the worst of times, right? And on the backside of ministry, went through a season of a divorce, went through a season of losing 8 family members and friends, went through
all within what time frame?
A year.
8 family members within a year.
Yeah, and buried most of them because I was the pastor while still pastoring and being all things to all people. You get to a point where the trauma, and some will recognize this. I don't go deep into all the stories because you lose people. It's just too much because they were all pretty violent. You just kind of get numb. And what you don't recognize is, even though you might think you're a superhero and you've confronted so much and you're walking through so much, your body is the same as everybody else's body. And my body gave out. I ended up going septic. And that was a real turning point for me. Like, are you going to be the guy who, my son was like 1.5, like, are you going to be the guy where your son doesn't ever know you? All he's going to know is, I guess he showed up for everybody else to the point that it killed him. And I didn't want that to be the story. And so for anyone listening, it's getting really clear. You know, we always say get clear on what you want. And I think that's hard for some people because you don't really know. I don't really know what I want. Well, let's start with what you don't want. What don't you want to experience anymore? What don't you want to experience in your relationships? What don't you want to experience physically anymore? Where are the patterns that you're looking to break? And let's start there. And then if we can start with what you don't want, well, then the antithesis of that would be probably what you do want. And so then it's very pragmatic. Okay, well, if that's the case, then what are the habits that would confirm that story to be true, right? If we go really simple and we say, well, I just want to be in better shape. Well, great. That means you want to be an athlete. What do athletes do? Athletes train every day. Athletes eat certain foods. They stay away from certain things. So we're just going to build that into your daily infrastructure. I want to be someone who runs a $10 million company. Oh, why? Let's get clear on why. Because right now you're about $500,000. So the gap between that is substantial, and who you have to become is substantially different than who you are today. So what habits can we instill today? What disciplines, what boundaries? What do you need to learn? What do you need to unlearn? What needs to die in you to become the man that you said that you'd be or that you feel called to be? And from there, we can start to, again, put in solid frameworks, solid boundaries, solid habits. We can start to build, like on the business side, start to build business, start to build infrastructure, start to build the different channels of your business to be able to handle the bandwidth of getting to whatever top of market is for you, and then look at other ways of acquisition to bolster on and to build that TAM and EBITDA. But now I'm getting in the weeds. It starts very, very simply. I want a deeper connection with God. Great, read a proverb a day. Just read the proverb of the day. If it's the first of the month, read Proverbs 1. If it's the 15th, read Proverbs 15. Read a psalm. Just thank God. You'd be amazed what happened if you just started your day with what you're grateful for, rather than waking up manic about all the things that you have to do. You don't have to. The gift is that you have air in your lungs and you have an opportunity to be different. You have an opportunity to change. You have an opportunity to not be the parent that raised you. You have an opportunity to not be stuck in the same trap of the friend cycle that you've had since high school. You have an opportunity to show a younger generation what could be possible. You have an opportunity to love and to be loved well. So again, some of this is getting clear on what you don't want to experience anymore.
That's so good, because you're right on what you said, that you can make changes while you're still, your back is not against the wall, but it's a lot harder because nobody wants to experience pain.
No, we avoid pain. But also I'll say that when you can get accustomed to the idea that failure is inevitable, it's going to happen. It doesn't make you a failure. It just means that you're learning. Failure's feedback. It just means something didn't work, right? Like when my son was starting to walk, when he fell, I didn't say, you know what? This isn't for you. This is just stay seated. This walking's not for you. You've already fallen 3 times. No, dude, you fell, of course. You've never done this before. We talk about this all the time in sports with him, because there'll be times when he's growing and he's not good at something. You don't just wake up good. You have to embrace that you're going to suck for a little bit. And when you can recognize that and you don't hold yourself hostage to it, and you recognize that it's all movement forward and it's all grace, well then, cool, if I'm not assigned the identity of a failure, but I actually lean into it and I just want to fail fast, well, now we recognize, well, I'm growth-minded, and now I can move forward. And now I can move forward with excellence and execution because I'm not attached to a specific outcome, and I'm not attached to a failure either.
So that if you are feeling like you're in a place right now where things are compound habits, compound effects, habits are good or bad. And
sure,
if you can, I feel like all of us that are maybe in a place, whether it's in our health, whether it's in our finances, whether it's in our family, our marriage, whatever, any person that has common sense can really sit back and say, where is this headed?
Yeah.
And maybe it's like an example of putting your hand on a stove and the stove is off, so you can keep that hand on for forever. You're like, hey, maybe things are good. But as that's getting warmer, you want to try to take away that hand before it's burning, and you have to. I mean, that's what happened to you. You were like, woke up one day and realized, and you're just like, you don't have an option, or else you're just gonna, it's gonna be really bad news if you keep your hand on there. So anybody out there that's listening, based on everything you told me, just ask yourself the question of, who do I want to be? What do I want to be? And what do I not want to be? I think that's a huge important question. And then from there, start creating those habits. What were some of the habits that you started whenever you had to take the hand off the stove, that were maybe just very, very just basic habits that maybe you don't even realize you're doing them nowadays because they're just it's who you are?
Well, and some of them were habits that I just shifted the intention around. Right? So I've always been someone who reads scripture daily, but now I'm just reading it for me and for devotion with God, not to create something. Working out every day, taking care of my body physically. Now, again,
were you doing that before?
I would say I've always been an athlete. And so that's always been a frame for me. I was a wrestler, and I love being athletic. I love being outside. I love being active. I really enjoy looking good with my clothes off. My wife loves
Something
that
you
as
can't
well.
buy, right?
You can't buy that. But recognizing that it's also a way to show other people what's possible. Daily disciplines of setting, you know what, one of the bigger disciplines is just setting a boundary to stop working.
I mean, I remember you telling me with all the stuff that you have going on, how many hours do you work a day?
So I start my day usually around 4 a.m. So I start earlier than most. I'm not recommending you wake up at 4 a.m. It's a train wreck for most people. I'm a country boy. It's what I've always done. I'll usually wrap my day between 3 and 3:30 because my son and stepson get out of school at 4. And so we usually have practice every single night, whether it's wrestling or baseball or something else. We typically have tournaments every single weekend, whether that be wrestling or baseball. So for me, it's a non-negotiable that I am present. I don't miss. And so ending my day there, which means that not only do I have to be very, very clear on my highest leverage activities, but I also have to be very mindful of what needs to be delegated, what needs to be automated as quickly as possible, so that one, I'm a responsible leader, but also I'm responsible to my time, because I don't get the time back. I've lost money. I've made money back. I can't get time back. I can't get that presence back. I can't get those practices back. I can't get those tournaments back. I can't get those hugs back when he loses and we have to walk through what was the lesson in the losing. I don't get those hugs back if I'm not there when he gets a medal around his neck and he's on a podium. I don't get those moments back if I'm working and he gets an award at school. Like, I don't get those back.
I think that's a thing that a lot of people don't realize. They get so stuck between rich and poor, and to me, it's not about being rich or being wealthy. It's about creating options for yourself, and then also being able to get time what's more valuable than money, which is time.
Yeah.
And that's what drives me crazy with so many people that are try to do things that they know that they're not good at, that they're trying to save a buck, and or spend too much time on something that they know it's not going to work just because they're trying to further themselves and that and maybe leave the middle class or whatever it is, and they're so stuck with, I got to do this by myself, and it's like I'm doing it for them, like you were talking about. I'm missing this baseball game for them. I'm missing this date night for them, and it's like you're never gonna be able to get that back. And it seems so basic, but people don't think about that.
Well, and the hard part is it compounds. So I was just having a conversation. We had a live event at our house for some of the guys in our mastermind, and there was a gentleman there who we like to hide. We like to pretend like things are going really well until you get face to face with somebody, which is why focused accountability that's qualified is so important, because our natural tendency is to fake it, especially with social media and everything else. We just want to fake that everything's perfect all the time. And the truth was, as he came into this event, business has been collapsing for the past year because there were some shifts in market that he didn't make aggressive enough. And as a result, he hadn't been on a date night in almost a year because they couldn't afford it, and had just completely let the integrity and health of his pursuit of his wife lapse, thinking that if I'm working more, then I'm working towards something. You can be incredibly busy and not be effective. And the problem is when you don't have accountability because you've propped up an idea that you're doing better than you are, you remove the ability to be helped, because now you have to frame your ego in such a way as to not let people know that things aren't actually as they seem. So there's a difference between like being honest and telling the truth. And the truth is what sets you free. And so as we got really clear on this, it's like, buddy, if we'd known this, I can give you 100 date ideas right now that don't take any money.
I was about to say that,
like,
yeah.
That's ridiculous. 2, if you would have let us know, we could have pinpointed some of the holes in your infrastructure to help you get back on track further, faster. But we can't help what you commit to hide. And so I digress. But so much of moving forward is about finding the right accountability. When we talk about putting those habits in place and those structures in place, there are so many who would say, well, yeah, but I just don't know what to do. Or it's easier for you because you seem like you understand business. And yeah, I got in business, sure, but there was a lot that I didn't know. There's a lot that I still don't know. People ask, like, how do you stay so humble? I'm like, I hang out with people who are more successful than me. And not just financially, but people who've been married for 35 years and have amazing kids who love them and are adults and are well-adjusted and they all love God. And like, that's what I'm looking to. And I'm gleaning from them. Hey, you have a portfolio of 70 companies and your family is balanced and you have time. How? Because I'm here. And I don't know that I necessarily want to be where you're at, but I'm certainly on that trajectory and on that path. So help me understand the boundaries that you put in place. Help me understand how to think differently. The internet is a beautiful thing in the sense that you can find out anything about anything. You can build a replica of the Ark if you'd like to, but you can build a business. You can learn how to do anything. So we're in information overload, and I think anxiety comes from the fact that we do have so many options. And relationally, we have so many options online to sedate and isolate. And, it comes down to, again, just to backpedal to where we were, getting clear on what you want, what you don't want. We can say putting the habits and structures in place. If you don't know what that is, you need to find somebody who has what you want and ask them, pay them to dial it in. And we can also say that money doesn't solve all your problems. It solves most of them. Solves about 98% of them. I'll just be honest with you. And if it tells you it doesn't, it's broke. And justifying why they are. And that would be my question to you is, what are you pretending to not know to justify where you're at right now? What are you pretending like you don't know to keep yourself comfortable in complacency right now? I don't talk a lot about my story anymore these days. Not because I don't think it's powerful, because I'm not going that direction. And I feel like the more that we stay in the past and the more that we dwell on the things that have happened to us, we can't focus on where God is leading us. I'm not concerned with what happened 20 years ago. I'm not concerned with who I was in high school. I'm not concerned with any of those things. I'm concerned with the gap between where I'm at today and who I'm called to be 5 years from now, while maintaining the integrity of presence that I'm called to in the moment.
That's so good. I always tell people that I personally, you've heard that saying, you are the average of the 5 people that you're hanging out with, and average meaning in health and finances,
sure,
spiritual, everything. And whoever my 5 people are, and these people change as seasons change as well, but I always try to be the smallest person in that room of 5, because I know that whenever the time comes to be able to be in a different room of 5, that I still want to be the smallest there. Yeah. But I'm going to be a lot more better and improved overall.
Dude, I'm 5'6", so that just happens by default. People, I got asked at baseball practice, like, dude, why are you so concerned with being like the fittest dad? And I'm like, well, I'm never going to be the tallest.
Hey, you can't change the height, but you can change.
That's right. Well, and that's the funny thing is, like, people complain about their circumstances. So, and I want to be very mindful to that, because I do understand what it is to be in a dark place, and I do understand what it feels to be stuck. And I do understand what it feels to be really hopeless and to feel like you don't know your way out. But there is so much about your life that you can change if you'll just choose to. And there's so much information and resource at your fingertips. There's so much that I didn't know, but I knew I could learn. And so I didn't hold myself hostage to what I didn't know. I just sought the solutions. And now we're at a point where I can bypass with money, right? And so you're either paying with time or with money. I built my business. I think some people connect with me on the internet. I don't consider myself an influencer, but I do have some people that connect with me on the internet at scale. And I built that not with money. I built that by being on over 400 of these, been on over 500 stages. Most of them in the beginning were not paid. Like, podcasts don't pay. Like, I knew my story. I knew what I wanted to communicate. I knew how I believed in people, and I just put the time in. And it wasn't sexy. It wasn't glamorous. I I don't have the 7 figures in 7 days story. That's real popular on the internet. I didn't make 6 figures in 6 hours. When I stepped into the business space, I was building this idea that I felt like God had given me to help good men become great. But everybody knew me as a pastor. So I had to completely rebrand. And I had to go into a whole new market because everybody on Facebook that knew me, and I didn't really have an Instagram at that point or anything else, so they were all just ministry friends, or they were like families of the church. And so nobody's buying your services because like they've gotten it for free for so long. They don't understand the shift that's happening. And so, I had to grind it out. I was flipping Harleys. I've been a licensed mechanic for 22 years. I've been a licensed barber for the same amount of time. So I was cutting hair out of my front room for $20 a pop. I was building websites, doing graphic design for smaller churches and communities. I've been a musician for 30 years now. So I was playing on the weekends that I didn't have Stetson, and on the weeks that I didn't have Stetson, I was playing little dive bars and clubs for tips. Like, I was just making it work. And I think that people aren't willing, or not people, some they want this side of it, but you don't recognize that, like, you eat dirt for a while.
Or they start it and then they just say, this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, if you'll just keep going and just fail through things. Again, get used to failing. You're going to fail. I fail all the time. Like, I'm world class at failing, but I just fail forward. Not every day is a win. Not every investment is a win. Like, my wife recently, we were on the couch. She's like, because I was telling her about some new companies that I was investing in, because I love investing in startups. And she's like, for not being a gambler, you sure do gamble a lot. I'm like, yeah, that's fair. Like, there's a certain risk tolerance, but it didn't start out that way. And you have to be able to take the losses, and you have to be able to learn from them. You have to take the losses in relationships and learn how to be a better, healthier partner and a better, healthier you. You need to learn how to love yourself. You take the losses that you had maybe as a kid with your parents, and you need to learn from that and take it and become a better parent. But it's learning through things and getting accustomed to the fact that, like, yeah, nobody, like, the top of the mountain is a climb. It's not an escalator.
A lot of the times people think that of the word humble, and they think of somebody that's successful, and it's like, oh, that person is very humble. Mm-hmm. Or like they think of a successful person that might not be very humble. They're very showy. They're doing all the stuff. But going back to what you said on, you have to be willing to go ask people how to do stuff. Like when you want to start doing things, and it's that takes humility even when you're at rock bottom, because there's so many people that are too proud to go to somebody. I mean, even mastermind is a super fancy word, and it makes it sound like, when I tell people like that I've been part of these masterminds, they're like, so what? Like, what are these about? What are they? I'm like, honestly, it's just a bunch of people that are trying to go towards the same place, most of them, but there's all different levels in it, and you're just literally learning from somebody that has that's done what you're trying to do right now, and is able to help you save that time.
It's a qualified think tank.
Exactly.
It's a qualified think tank. And often you pay to play, but you typically pay to play because you want to make sure that it's serious people in the room, because anybody can talk. And being able to put that investment in. And again, if you find yourself not being there yet, and you find yourself just at the beginning of this, I will tell you, some of the greatest mentors live for free on YouTube. Until, again, it's time or it's resource, financial resource. If you don't have the financial resource right now, guess what? You're going to have to create time margin, and you're going to need to learn. And some of my personal mentors create amazing free content on YouTube, and it is free for consumption. The difference is you don't have the accountability on the backside, so you have to be very self-motivated and self-disciplined, which for most people is difficult. And also, you don't have the fraternity or the community. It is difficult, not impossible, but I would tell you that it is very difficult to grow into a new version of yourself when you're surrounded by the people who have always known who you've always been and who are okay with where things are. There's nothing wrong with that inherently. I have no qualms with people who are very satisfied with where they are in life, especially here in Oklahoma. I mean, it's a very common thing. It's fine. Recognize that you become very disconnected very quickly when you start growing, because you recognize the things that used to light you up don't light you up anymore. And for so many of us, because we're so relationally minded, we'll actually stunt our growth, because we don't ever want to get to the point where our friends think we're better than them, or that we're not approachable anymore. But understand, as you grow, that just naturally happens because you start caring about different things. So again, deciding, what do you really want? Are you willing to potentially leave some relationships that don't move you forward behind? I'm not saying everybody has to be, a higher earner than you and more jacked than you and all these things, and those are the only people that you surround yourself with. Not at all. Not at all. But we all have to be growing in some capacity. I don't care if it's the fact that I'm building this company and you've been sober for 30 days. That's more impressive to me. It takes far more mental willpower than me pulling some levers and making some hires and shifting a marketing strategy and adjusting KPI in a scaling company. The fact that you're changing an entire psychology about yourself and you're overcoming mechanisms that were destroying and numbing you, and you're having to face demons that you've never faced before, never confronted, and you're choosing to do that. And you're choosing to do that in a thankless way. There's no celebration station there. There's no accolades on the internet there. It's grueling.
But both of those take the same principles of surrounding yourself with better people.
Yeah.
And
healthy people.
Yeah. And
Healthy
then being
people.
able to ask for help.
You have to ask for help.
One thing I didn't ask you that I'm curious about is you're a pastor and actually one thing I did want to ask you, we were talking about your businesses for people that are listening. And I believe you told me, how old were you when you first launched your first successful business?
First successful business, I sold frogs for 5 cents a piece in second grade. I'm talking just hand over fist, just those little baby toads, just bring a cupful to school. As obnoxious. So I got into business when I was in ministry, actually. So I started.
Oh, you did. You were.
So I started. Yeah, I started a business that was basically like subscription design on demand for smaller churches that couldn't afford graphic design.
So you had started that when you were still being pastor.
Yeah. So I started that, and then actually towards the latter part of my ministry career, I actually got into the online fitness space as well and started doing very, very well. Now this was like 2016, Facebook. It was very easy to go viral. And like when you are, if I'm being 100% just transparent, when you're a charismatic guy covered in tattoos, he's a good dad and he's single, and you're ripped, it wasn't like a difficult sell.
Was it 90% female customers?
Oh God, yeah, and that's okay. But actually, but in the evolution, what I recognized and why I work with men now is like I did not like that frame.
Yeah.
Now, it was never overly weird or anything else. I think it was the fact that I was very empathetic, but also masculine. And so it provided a really unique position, a marketplace that just wasn't present at the time. But then quickly recognized that there were skill sets that were far more valuable that I had to offer. And again, I'm never one to tell a woman how to be a woman. Don't know how to do that. But I do know through trial and error and in cultivating some success in my own life, what it does look like to build healthy infrastructure as a man personally and professionally.
But when did you leave the ministry? How old were
2017.
you? How old were you?
What is that, 33?
33. So then what about like the business you started after that? Like your first successful business?
Oh, that was ETL. So Embrace the Lion.
And then you were 33?
I was 33. Yeah.
33. Okay. And I wanted people to hear that because I heard your story and I think that it wasn't until you left that kind of pushed everything that you're at.
Well, it had to, right? Because when you leave the security of a job, like, sure, you don't have the responsibility of that position anymore, but you also don't have the W-2. Mm-hmm. You don't have the pension. You do still have a mortgage. You do still have insurance. You do still have, in my case, I had child support. You have all of these. You have a bunch of expenses. And so, no, it was one of those. And again, I had to make ends meet. I had to do a lot of different things in the beginning to kind of hustle through it. and those seasons exist. But yeah, it was Embrace the Lion that really took off. And I would say that it took, my season was a little different. It was a little easier for me to get on stages because of my background speaking. And so that provided a quicker on-ramp for me than most. But it took about 6 to 8 months for that to become fully sustainable.
But whatever people are trying to get into, whatever their dreams and desires are most likely going to be different than, having to maybe be on podcasts or get on a stage, to where I wanted you to tell me that, because most people are always going to be thinking, it was easy for him, right? To where we live in an age now where I feel like whether it's athletes, whether it's entrepreneurs, whoever it is, they just keep getting younger and younger and younger. So I feel people that are successful today, most people think like, well, yeah, they probably, he probably left his W-2 job when he was 19 and it was easier to take risks then than whenever.
Sure.
And then I'm glad you brought up that, like, when you do that those bills are still there, like all the stuff, but you have to make it happen. You have to be willing to make it happen.
And I don't always recommend burning the boats. I think if you have a really steady career and you're wanting to build something, like, maintain that as long as you can, just especially if you have a family, like, be responsible. I will say that for me, some of the things that people don't really think about is that I got into public speaking and leadership at 19. And for 13 years across the country, I was communicating up to 5 times a week at some points. And I was building infrastructure. I was building teams. I was building curriculum. I was building operating systems. I was building tech, because when you're a ministry, you just do all the things. And then you build teams around the people that you have. So that's the difference between business. In business, I can hire the best. In the church, you usually are using the same 20% of people to do all the things. And so it's their passion and resourcefulness to kind of piece some things together and figure it out. That was my entire 20s was a crash course in how to lead effectively, how to communicate effectively, how to sit with people through unimaginable experiences, how to be quiet, how to not have all the answers, how to suffer well, again, how to build, how to fail through things, how to walk with people when they fail through things. All of that was preparation. The pulpit was always preparation for this platform, always. God was always seasoning me, and my consideration to anybody who's listening is there are giftings and talents and passions inside of you that you have had for so long that you've normalized them.
And taking them for granted.
Maybe taking them for granted, but it's more that you don't even see them as valuable to marketplace. It's that there are such unique things about you that make you you, that are so valuable in certain markets that you just can't see right now. For me, speaking on a stage, I don't even think about it. It's second nature. Now I'm always wanting to get better, but it's been over 20 years. I do not think about it anymore. There are others who that would be one of their greatest fears. It's just different. There are people who fly planes and don't even think about it. It's what they've always done. Don't ever put me in the cockpit of an airplane. We won't get off the ground.
Or even as simple as somebody like you and I, who we've worked out our entire life and we don't know anything else, but somebody that's trying to better their health, it's like going to a gym might just...
Dude, I was just talking to a friend of mine from high school who, in high school, dude, he was the coolest guy. Like, and he's still cool, but he was so cool. Like, frosted.
You're just cooler than him now.
No, just in better shape physically. And, we're talking like frosted tips, puka shell necklace, like always wore Abercrombie. Like, the dude was just untouchable. And so we reconnect and everything, and we were at the pool, actually at the gym, and he's gotten big. He's like pushing 250 now. And
not in a healthy way.
Not in a healthy way at all. No. And we were talking about fitness and things. And I was like, yeah, it's absurd. Like I weigh myself every day. I have since probably ninth grade. I could tell you every single year from 1999 what I've weighed on average. I think it's a wrestler thing. It's a very, I
weigh myself every day now, but
yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
I could tell you probably back to 7th grade what I weighed, because I knew what my weight class was as a wrestler. And so he's like, it was different for him. He's like, yeah, I weigh every day too, but I'm weighing because I know if I see a certain number that I'm in trouble. And it hit me that I'm like, I have no idea what that's like. I have no idea what that feels like. He's like, and it's frustrating to go to the gym because everybody seems to be in shape. And he's like, I can't do it. I can't really do much. And I've let myself get here, and there's shame and there's frustration. He's like, I don't know what to do. I said, why don't we do this? Why don't you start walking 10,000 steps a day? You can be on your phone because your phone will track it through the health app. So walk 10,000 steps a day. I want you to do, I'm going to write you a body weight exercise and with some bands. And let's just we're not going to focus on building muscle right now. We're going to focus on just losing some of this water weight and some of this visceral fat. I want you to drink a gallon of water every single day. And I want you to adhere to this macro and calorie plan. Let's just do those things. I said, if that's too much right now, let's just not eat after this time. And let's start meals at this time. Walk 10,000 steps and drink a gallon of water. Done. I can absolutely do that. It's starting with what you have in your hand. David, in the Bible, he's going to fight Goliath. And what does everybody try to do? They try to put armor on him that wasn't his. It was never his to wear. And so many times we get overwhelmed because everybody's placing an idea of what they think we need next because we haven't clearly defined. We don't have a clear idea of who we're called to be. So we'll just start putting on everything that everybody says, and we get overwhelmed, weighed down, burned out, and we quit. But when you know who you are, you know who you're called to be, you recognize that what you have in your hand in the moment is enough because you're fighting from a victory and not for it. I got these stones in my hand and I got this slingshot. That is all I need. Take this armor off of me. So when you can remove the expectation and the weight that other people have placed on you, that maybe you've allowed them to place on you, and you can stand in the truth of who you are and who you're called to be, regardless of who you've ever been. God is a great restorer and makes all things new. Who you can become tomorrow is completely different than who you are today. I firmly believe that. I'm a living testimony to that.
One of the questions I was going to ask you is if you ever miss preaching.
I was like, because I'll preach. I'll preach,
You've
bro.
been preaching this entire time. I'm literally like...
Bro, you know what's funny is, again, I'm more a pastor now than I was behind a pulpit.
Yeah, people just got to go see your social media. Literally, every single time I watch your videos, which the algorithm knows that I like them.
Yeah.
So they pop up every time, and literally, I feel like it's more valuable than 90% or more of the pastors out there that use social media.
Well, one, I appreciate that. That's a humbling thing to hear and say, because there are several pastors that I deeply respect and admire and gain so much wisdom from. For me, I recognize there's so much information out there. And again, we are at critical mass of information to the point where I think it creates anxiety for people because there's so many options of what you can do, and nobody really wants to fail. And some people are afraid of that failure. Some people are afraid of what others will think. Some people are afraid of success because they've never seen it before, which is why we see so many people sabotage things because they're addicted to the building phase and not the stable phase. For me, the call that I feel is to provide a place of rest for people, to shift the way that you might think, to shift what you might believe about yourself from a social media platform. What I do behind the scenes in business is different. But utilizing a media platform for me, because I don't require it for monetizing anything, it is how can God utilize the gifts that he's given me, the experiences, to help someone who, man, is maybe overwhelmed, maybe crushing it, maybe feeling isolated, may feel like they have all the friends in the world. Like, how do we create harmony amongst everyone? So
good, man. I appreciate you coming on. The last thing I wanted to share on that was that, I don't know if you ever heard, John Maxwell said that the reason that he's written so many books is because that's the only way that he'll be able to touch so many people that he'll never get to meet.
Dude, that's
social media.
That's social media.
How many people's lives have you potentially changed? One time, randomly, I know our content's different,
Yeah.
but that's what motivates me, dude. One time early on when I started doing it, somebody from New Jersey sent me a message and said, hey, I just wanted to send you this message because of a video that I watched that you posted. Now I'm a homeowner because I always thought that I needed more down payment, that my credit wasn't good enough, but watching the information that you gave let me and my family, and dude, that I didn't do the loan. Like I didn't make any money off of that,
dude.
But that literally is what my why behind it.
That's it. You know, I shared the story of my friend anonymously, and the experience of the pool, and him, you know, being a bit overweight and needing to create something new in his life, and what that could look like for him, and just do these simple things. And I position to anyone who is really struggling with their weight, just focus on these simple things. Here are the links to calorie calculators. Here's the link to dial in your macros. Here's what I would suggest if you're looking to go keto, unless you're diabetic or you have some medical issues. Like, just give it all away. Like, here's everything that you need to do. And this morning, I don't know if you see your messages, but I wanted to tell you how glad I am that I found your content. Just because of the fact that following you has really been an encouragement thing. I needed encouragement to get started back at the gym. I find myself in a position of potentially not being able to show up for my family, and I don't want to be the dad that dies at 40 of a heart attack. So thanks to you, I'm going to start prioritizing my health. I may not ever be a business owner who uses your services, but I can be a dad that you'd be proud to know. God bless.
That's the why right there.
That's it.
Dude, that's so good.
And if you'll use what you have in your hands, the things that you take for granted, it's enough. It's always been enough. It'll always be enough. And when you can recognize that, then you can start to stack and compound that, just like the parable of the talents. God will give you what he gives you, and it's your responsibility to multiply that. But don't disrespect it. Don't hide it. Grow through it. And surround yourself with people who see the greatness inside of you. As small as you may feel that it is right now, there's greatness inside everyone. And it just takes that spark. It takes that one person being able to see it, which for me, the reason I do what I do on social is because I want people to be like, he's that guy who saw it in me. To my content team, what I tell them is like, how can we create a woman at the well experience with every piece of content? How in 60 seconds can we have someone come and say, you know what, I got to go tell everybody, like, here's a guy who understands me. And he may understand the things that I've been through and walk through the things that I've done, the way that people see me, but he didn't leave me there. He never judged me for it. And he's consistently focused on who I can be. That's it.
Dude, I ran this one a little longer than normal, but I got so much from this, so I appreciate you coming. I'm sure anybody that listens to it is going to as well. I really appreciate your wisdom, your knowledge, your consistency, just everything, man. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm not going to post my address, so but if you're not weird, shoot me a message, and you can probably come over for dinner. You can find me on Facebook, Cody Jefferson. You can find me on Instagram, Cody Jefferson. We're getting ready to push into YouTube, so you can find me there as well. If you're a man looking to do more with your life and you're looking for a band of brothers to do that with, you can go to ETL, which is Embrace the Lion, etlroundtable.com. You can check out what we're up to there. I'm pretty Googleable. I'm easy to find.
Yeah, really easy to find. Appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. I'm proud of who you are.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.